Welcome to the Real CP Show. I'm your host, CP. And today's topic, this deadly Ukrainian woman, major drug-ness trafficker, utilized a loophole in a program to get into the U.S., let alone the billions of reparations of sort provided to the Ukraine. Yes, I'm like this again. I mean, it's funny, but it's not funny because at the same time that you have various numbers of people, especially within Black Americanism, that are told that you must look at someone like this and say, oh my goodness, these are minorities. These are marginalized communities, right? Yes. I know it's an insult, right? It's an insult because this is what they think really millions of Black Americans are stupid. This is why they look at Black Americans on this. So in this situation, you had this major international drug-ness trafficker, right, from Ukraine, who tried to slide under a parole-ness program to get to the United States. The insultingness of that part of it, right? Because when the Ukrainian war started, was around 2022, right? Oh my goodness, look what the bad Russians are doing. Look what the bad Russians are doing. Oh my God, we must help Ukraine. And how much money? I'm gonna get into the estimation amount of billions that's been getting to Ukraine. I've done also various types of podcasts on this, right? Matter of fact, before I get to the article, let me sit there and show you something. Some articles I've done on my informal The Real CP Show one. Give me one moment here. Make sure you can see this. All right, make sure you can see this here. Now, this informal podcast of mine, The Real CP Show, right? For people who might be interested, who might like to go by and take a look at, especially under the videos tab and live tab as well. So 800 million of new aid going to Ukraine. Again, reparation for American Blacks. Shh, right? That was one of them. 40 billion more reparations for Ukraine, etc. But American Black reparations, quietness, right? See these 3 years ago, close to $14 billion approved for Ukraine aid reparations for black Americans, basically. Shh, right? Ukraine reparations to date amount. This is about 2 years ago from the U.S., but reparations for blacks, well, another podcast I did. Billions more Ukraine reparations, insulting switchery, but American Black reparations, get out of, whatever, I forgot that stands for here. Giggle, basically, right? And this is today's podcast today on December the 17th, 2025. Right? Billions of reparations of some sort given to Ukraine. Right? But when you start talking about reparations for Black Americans, it's like this. The insultingness of this, right? God, this is why supremacy is the most brilliant mental manipulation force has ever existed, right? It can make sure to give billions of resources to the Ukraine, right? When high numbers of Ukrainian personnel trying to get out of Ukraine, right? But at the same time, you say, well, what about the missing, however, other billions that are missing? That's been given to Ukrainian, however, certain people, should we say? Quietness, right? But let's go ahead and share my screen on this part and get to the particular article. Give me one moment here. There we go. All right. Make sure you can see this. All right. So this is December 2025 article. ICE, Buffalo, New York, arrests notorious international drug-ness trafficker woman and criminal border breaker illegal immigrant from Ukraine who attempted to exploit immigration law to hide from justice. Criminal border breaker illegal immigrants attempted to this particular criminal border breaker illegal immigrant alien attempted to evade justice by exploiting limited time parole for Ukrainians fleeing. Just like you have numbers of black skinned fleers who know they are, who cosplay black Americans, the ones applies to, and have the nerve to try to talk down upon black Americans, but can't fix their own corruption and can't fix their own major tribalism. The nerve of that in itself. Now, look at her right here. Oh, she's so innocent looking and demonically behind those eyes. Buffalo, New York. ICE Buffalo fugitive operations officers arrested criminal alien, illegal alien, and international fugitive, and Helena Polishchuk during a targeted operations November the 20th, 2025. The 40-year-old Ukrainian woman national who was identified as a armed and dangerous escape risk is wanted in her home country for drug trafficking and is the subject of Interpol's red notice, right? Foreign criminals will not exploit our immigration laws, which that's what they're doing, to escape justice in their home countries. Said this ICE Buffalo enforcement removal operation such and such personnel. Our officers are committed to protecting the public by ensuring criminals are not allowed to freely roam the streets of New York and many other places around the United States. We will continue to work with our domestic and international law enforcement partners to ensure individuals who commit egregious crimes like Polishchuk are held to account. Polishchuk entered the United States through John F. Kennedy Airport June 16, 2023, exploiting a parole program for Ukrainians established by the previous administration, Biden administration. She attempted to use this program to evade justice within the U.S., but was identified by ICE and international authorities as a criminal fugitive. She is wanted for illegal production, manufacture, purchasing, storage, transportation, and possession of illegal narcotics in Ukraine. The previous administration's immigration policies allow millions of unvetted foreigners, including criminals like Polishchuk, to enter and remain in the country. Now, ICE officers have been empowered to enforce the law and prevent dangerous border breaker illegal immigrant aliens from doing any more harm to American citizens. Members of the public can report crimes and suspicious activity by dialing 1-866-DHS to ICE, 1-866-347-2423, or completing an online tip form. But at the same time, right? Oh my goodness, they just trying to come over here and do the job that the American citizens don't want to do. They just want to come to America and start a better life, right? I mean, the nerve, right? But Black Americans got to consistently, by the millions, got to consistently go through Black pain, right? And the number one, I'm not talking about gullible ones and naive ones, by the way. And the thing about it is, like I was saying earlier, that the reparations part. But by the way, again, look at this picture. She's so innocent, right? And how many gullible guys have sat there and looked at her and said, ooh, she's nice looking. And behind her daily eyes, she was sitting there using them, right? And how many guys, they look at her, and if she does this, they come running, right? They come running. See how that goes? This is why, unfortunately, there are numbers of males that are very gullible and naive as well to the feminine wiles, or the corrupt version of feminine wiles, right? Not the real feminine, right? Not the real kind, right? I'm talking about the false kind, right? On that situation. So let me go ahead and share my screen relating to what is the estimation of the aid. Make sure you can see this, to Ukraine. How much Europe? Make sure my mute is okay. Good. How much have Europe and the U.S. given to Ukraine? You see this article, December the 8th, 2025. Today is December the 17th, 2025. Talks on the war in Ukraine have taken place in London with the leaders of the UK, France, and Germany reaffirming their support for President Zelensky. On that, U.S. President Trump has said he is disappointed that President Zelensky has not read his latest proposal to end the conflict, because that's money involved. Of course not. And stuff like that. Resources, major resources. President Trump has in the past been critical of the amount of support European countries have given to Ukraine, comparing it unfavorably with his own country's contribution. Not going to get into all that. BBC Verify has been taking a close look at how much Europe and U.S. has been spending on Ukraine since Russia's full-scale invasion in 2023. But the number one people within Americanism related to reparations who have had the most hatefulness of politicalness, anti-Black Americanism by however political figures over centuries, right? The most hate crimes put upon the people. The ton of people that has had the most heinous hate crimes put upon them, right? With no reparations and no black crime, and no type of anti crimeness against these people are Black Americans. The number one most hated group in America is Black Americans, right? The most victimness of hate crimes put upon the people is Black Americans. But with that being said, no hate crime, no anti-Black American hate crime legislature. The nerve, the insultings of that, right? But just a few years ago, within the genericality of Asian criminal agents that were saying, oh my goodness, look at the criminality against us. Again, genericality, because Asia is a freaking continent, right? See how that goes, right? Iran is an Asian continent, right? They don't want to talk about that. Iraq is an Asian continent, Asian country, excuse me. Iran is considered a part of an Asian country within the Asian continent. Iraq is considered an Asian country within the Asian continent, right? Armenia is considered a Asian country within the Asian continent, right? But at the same time, but they want people to look at a certain section of Asian and say, oh, that's Asian. What kind of nonsense is that? And it's only a certain section within certain Asianness that we look at a stereotype that was trying to steer the direction of this silliness of diabolical anti-Blackness, because they were trying to act like there was Black folks that were sitting there doing wrong things to numbers of Asian people. And they found out it was not the truth on that. It was various types of males within the predominant cultures doing that. And they sit there and got an anti-Asian crime bill passed. The nerve. The nerve of that. So let's continue on that. But all that old resources given to the Ukraine, and how much of those resources are not even counted for. So the U.S. says, how much has the U.S. spent in total? The U.S. spent a total of 130 billion estimation between 24 January 2022 and 31 August 2025, according to the Kiel Institute, a Germany-based think tank that tracks international support for Ukraine. The U.S. government has provided its own figure looking at all the spending on Operation Atlantic Resolve, a response from Russia's invasion of Ukraine. It says 187 billion has been appropriated, a figure that covers U.S. military China's and Europe and replenishment of U.S. defense stocks. But let's not get caught up on some other stuff. Well, it says the military. No. Not get caught up in that. Look at this right here. This is what I want to look at right here. Top aid donors to the Ukraine. Figures are for allocated support. The U.S., by supremacists controlled, has allocated more and given more resources to the Ukraine than any other country on this planet. Right? Look at that. Look at that. But at the same time, when you start talking about where is the reparations for Black Americans within the U.S. for centuries of Black pain, it's like, again, the insultingness of this, right? This is what's like. This is what they're doing to millions of American Blacks. They say those silly Negroes are sitting there fighting for a border breaker, illegal immigrant people's rights, fighting for people that are breaking immigration laws left and right, allowing people to put Black Americans by the millions in some generically people of color, minority, communities of color, marginalized communities is an insult, especially to the American Black ancestors. And still the most hated group in America. Again, we're talking about numbers. We're talking about by anti-hate. We were talking about hatred-based legislature over the centuries toward American Blacks, right? Policies, laws, etc., that was still high restrictionality against Black Americans. And again, the number one group of the most hated in America is Blacks, American Blacks. Hate crimes. The number one group that has the most hate crimes put upon them is Black Americans. The person, again, who's had more laws and policies against a culture is Black Americans. And at the same time, Black Americans can't get no reparations. But 130 billion, I'm just giving an example, the estimation, because up to, say 180 billion, I saw 175 billion, right? However, allocation is of high resources to Ukraine. But at the same time, they can't even sit there and find 100 million. It's about estimation of 40 to 44 million, depending on who you talk to, maybe 42 to 45 million of Black Americans. But regardless, I'm talking about, say, half of that, let's say 20, let's just give an average, 25 million in the U.S. are basically plus or minus are 18 to the oldest Black American. If they sit there and say, we're going to sit there and give, which is earn 1 million to Black Americans, just say if it's, like I said, 25 million, that's $25 million. What is 25 million compared to 130 billion that's been given estimation to the Ukraine, and allocations up to 175, 180 billion, right? Do you see the insulting of that? And I can't even fathom. It's like I can't even fathom what is the problem with certain numbers within American Blackism doing supplies. It's like you let these people get all this money to Ukraine, and you got the people on certain politicalness that don't even say, hold it up. Billions are given to Ukraine. That's that part, let alone having numbers of foreign aid given to many different other countries and personnel, helping out border break illegal immigrants and break immigration law, sanctuary cities that are being treasonous, giving resources to border break illegal immigrants, right? Numbers of personnel, border break illegal immigrants, numbers of immigration personnel, the one supplies to, they pop out these babies left and right? Bam, automatic citizenship off the stream blood and sweat and tears of Black Americans and the ancestors, right? For centuries, fighting for the 14th Amendment of the Constitution that has been diluted down, and at the same time, which is supposed to be for Black Americans, and especially the one of the main part that was supposed to grant finally citizenship across the board for Black Americans. But now it's used even more for anybody else, basically, to pop out kids of kids, bam, automatic citizenship. And there are just not enough Black Americans, especially high political positions, that's saying this is insulting. There has to be something, a restorative justice in that. And they are not going to keep tolerating the blatant disrespect of high other people getting all these resources. But when it concerns Black Americans, you got people that act like that they playing naive now. They can't find no resources. And this is why I say again, unfortunately, that because of it's still quite a number of Black Americans, unfortunately, they're allowing people to show blatant disrespect. And they know it's not enough Black Americans within the millions to finally say enough. They've had about enough of all these other different groups and people within the U.S. and blatant disrespect and people giving more resources to more immigration groups and helping them start businesses and helping them finance different avenues and act like they came over here with $1.50 in their pocket. That nonsense. And they know already that the allowability of millions of Black Americans that have been put in a generically black box, right? But you got numbers of black skinned fleers that hide under that box when they want to claim Blackness when they want to, and jump out when they want to claim their own tribalism or nationality. And they say it's not enough Black Americans that have gotten tired of this, let alone not to have an anti-American Black hate crime bill and being the number one most hated group in America by crime stats. For all those different things, this will have to say that Black Americans collectively only have half a generation to one generation left before the overall complete destruction of the American Black culture overall. I thank you for tuning in to the Real CP show. And by the way, look at this image. Deadly. But patriarchy, the disgusting inflationary taxes, which is a whole different topic in itself. Because it's the abominableness of that type of mental tactic, right? By a certain type of feminists and some other people who want to see more feminists involved in politics and shutting down anything dealing with masculinity and just saying patriarchy, misogyny. But look at this woman right here, this criminality, international drug trafficking woman, armed and dangerous one, before she got caught. What about her? It becomes quietness or deflection. I thank you again for tuning in to the Real CP show.